As AI becomes increasingly integrated into our lives, it becomes critical to adopt a comprehensive approach to AI accountability. And at Workday, we take that responsibility really seriously, prioritizing responsible AI and collaborating with policymakers to strike the right balance between innovation and trust. I'm Jim Stratton, Chief Technology Officer at Workday, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Kelly Trindel, Workday's Head of Responsible AI. Together we'll delve into the topic of AI accountability and governance, exploring how these transformative technologies are shaping the future of work. Kelly will share her insights on key areas including accountability tools, the concept of shared responsibility, and the significance of AI governance. Let's dive in. So welcome, Kelly. Thanks for joining us here today. Can you start by talking a bit about your own role here at Workday and a bit about your background and what brought you here?
Sure. It's great to be here with you, Jim. Thanks. So my background is I was trained as a research psychologist, and I spent a few years in academia teaching. And then I moved on to the government. I worked for the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission for many years as a social scientist. Then I spent some time at a tech startup doing people analytics. I came to Workday actually to work on the public policy team. I was a director of research first. And I have since then taken my role as head of responsible AI.
That's amazing. And can you tell us a bit about the Responsible AI program here at Workday?
Sure. So with our program, I like to think about people, practices, and principles. And so I'll start with principles. So we have 4 AI ethics principles, and those really serve as our North Star, our sort of mission statement, as you will. So we think about how we're going to amplify human potential with our AI solutions and products. We think about how we're going to positively impact society. We think about how we're going to champion transparency and fairness and deliver on our commitments to data privacy and protection. So those are our 4 AI ethics principles. But, principles are only part of the way to get there. You have to really put those principles into practice to make the program work. And so when we think about our practices, we think about risk identification and risk mitigation. Obviously, AI technologies are really exciting and transformative, and we're very excited about those technologies as well on the Responsible AI team. We just focus a little bit on the potential risks that could come with deploying those kind of technologies and how to mitigate them. And finally, I'll talk about our people. So we have a commitment to responsible AI from the top down at Workday. We have our Chief Legal Officer, Rich Sauer, who chairs our Responsible AI Advisory Board. And that advisory board brings together executives from across the org, including our Chief Diversity Officer, Karen Taylor, our Chief Integrity and Compliance Officer, Chris Fedro, and you're on that advisory board too, aren't you, Jim?
I am.
As our Chief Technology Officer. And that's just to name a few. And so this board comes together regularly to give us guidance and oversight. In fact, I think we may have a meeting first thing tomorrow morning. We'll be sitting down together again then to go through the governance processes that we're building and developing. And so we have the advisory board, but then we have a dedicated RAI team, and that's the team that I lead, which is awesome. That team is made up of data scientists and social scientists and technology experts, and we spend all of our days thinking about responsible AI governance and looking at best practices and thinking about how to make them make sense at Workday. And then finally, we rely on our network of responsible AI champions, and those are SMEs from across the org who give us input in terms of how to make our governance processes practical and scalable across the org.
And SMEs, those are subject matter experts across our development orgs, across the business operation orgs. Folks are actually developing, building products and putting those into place, right?
That's right, yeah. We really need that input in terms of what will make sense for the way we actually develop products at Workday, so we can make sure that we're developing governance processes that fit with the way things really work here.
Yeah,
so that's very
important. Great.
Important.
Sounds like a really comprehensive process and program in place here.
Yeah, we're really proud of it.
Yeah, that's great. So Workday also has a world-class privacy program. Is Responsible AI part of that privacy program, or are they separate here?
Yeah, so we really do have a world-class privacy program that we're very proud of. Responsible AI is actually separate from the privacy program, but we work together quite closely, and we're able to leverage a lot of the learnings that those folks used when they put together the program. And so, yeah, separate, but very closely connected.
Yep, no, that makes sense. And this concept of responsible AI isn't new here at Workday, right? Can you tell us a bit about about how we've come to that here and how long we've been thinking about that?
Yeah, it's definitely not new to us. We've had AI ethics principles out there since 2019, and folks at Workday have been thinking about governance since then. So that's quite a few years. More recently, when I came into my role and we built our team of dedicated RAI experts, we took a look at those principles and we refreshed them. And so we published those towards the end of 2022. And since then, we've been like really very focused, particularly on the risk identification and risk mitigation processes.
Now, you mentioned risk, so we recommend taking a risk-based approach to developing, deploying AI-based solutions. Can you talk a bit more about that?
Sure. When I have conversations with folks outside of Workday, whether they're our customers or just people I know in the world, and I tell them what I do, they often seem a little sort of surprised and unsure about what that means and how to start. What does it mean to run a responsible AI team or a responsible AI program? And really it's about thinking about, what are the actual risks of bringing this technology into play. And so it's really important to think about that, to think about when the technology touches a person, how could it go wrong? That's what a risk is. And so we think about identifying those risks in a scalable, repeatable kind of a way here at Workday. And so we have a responsible AI risk evaluation form that our product managers use in ideation phase of any new AI ML product development. And it runs them through a set of questions that indicate their level of risk and that serve up targeted responsible AI guidelines for the development of that product. And I think really that idea, risk identification, risk mitigation, is the heart of a responsible AI program.
Oh, that makes a ton of sense. And can you talk a bit about how does Workday identify sensitive use cases and then how does that then drive development deployment practices after that?
Sure. So the outcome of that risk identification tool that I talked about will indicate whether something's a sensitive use case or not. So for example, since Workday is a provider of enterprise HCM technology and FINS technology, AI products that assist our customers in worker transition, such as hiring or promotion, those would be identified as sensitive use cases. And so what that means is we just have to pay special attention to the guardrails and the guidelines that we've been able to put into place for those particular use cases. So if anyone out there is thinking about what would risk identification or risk mitigation look like at my company, you do have to think about the actual use cases of the technology that you're developing and what that would look like. It might not be the same as worker transitions for us.
Yeah, and how those use cases are actually getting into the hands of the end users. So speaking of that, can you talk a bit about this notion of full automation versus human in the loop and how Workday thinks about that, how we approach that in terms of what we're developing?
Sure, absolutely. So I like to think about this in terms of if the technology is providing the user with more information, summarized information, more insights, that is not fully automated technology. It's providing folks with information so they can follow that principle that we talked about earlier, amplify human potential. We're trying to give things to people so that they can make better decisions. So not fully automated. And this is part of our risk evaluation, risk mitigation process that, in any instances where it is a sensitive use case, like those worker transitions, we don't want to deploy fully automated technologies. That's how we think about it.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And also, I think from the product development standpoint, making sure that we show the end user that this is a system behind them, providing recommendations, providing information to them so that that's fully there in the user experience so they understand the tools that they're interacting with. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's great. So there's this concept of shared responsibility in terms of AI accountability. Can you help our listeners understand what that is and what it means to us here at Workday?
Yeah, so this is important. There's different actors who come together to bring an AI technology to the end user. And you can think about, for example, developers and deployers of AI technologies. And so if you think of Workday developing technologies that would help that our customers can then uptake to help make decisions around HR FINS. We would be the developer, and the customer would be the deployer. And it's important to make this distinction because we have different roles to play. We have different information. We have different, things that we're trying to achieve. And so it's important to think about what we can both do in our different roles in order to ensure that the technologies we're ultimately bringing to life are responsible and trustworthy. So that's what the shared responsibility model looks like.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful. Thanks for that insight. So this whole field of AI accountability is still relatively new and certainly developing. Are there any external resources or frameworks or best practices that you lean on or that you would encourage our viewers to go take a look at and to understand and adopt?
Yeah, there's a few things that come to mind immediately. First, there's the NIST AI Risk Management Framework, which if anyone out there hasn't taken a look at that, I would definitely recommend that. We think about the NIST AI RMF quite a bit when we're putting together governance structures. The other thing we're keeping a very close eye on is the EU AI Act in Europe. This is not complete. It's under development, but taking a look at what the regulators out there are thinking and what they're pulling together is really helpful to think about how to develop these governance programs. And then there's also the National AI Advisory Committee, which our co-president Shayan Chakrabarty is part of. And so we like to look at the reports and the guidance that are coming out of that work in order to guide, what we're trying to do. The other thing is that I'm lucky that we have a really great public policy team here at Workday. And so they're really keeping an eye on the developing regulatory space so that we can, as they say in hockey, skate to where the puck is going. I say that like I understand a lot about hockey, but it certainly makes a lot of sense for how we're trying to build this program.
And it's certainly true for just the speed at which all of this is developing too, right? So it's really incredible insights. Thank you, Kelly, for joining us. Watch this space, a lot's changing and it's moving fast and we're trying to help drive that here. So really appreciate all your efforts for us internally and externally, helping other folks come along with this as well.
Yeah, it's awesome to be here and talk about this program.
Yeah,
thanks, Jim.
It's great. Thanks for joining me today, Kelly. Really enjoyed our conversation. And thank you all for joining us. Hope you have a great workday.